They're gonna kill the love of my life.
David!
If I don't go back to what I was doing.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous!
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide. Now playing. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. Welcome to Venus Unplugged, your virtual heartbreak hotel. This is Llorraine Neithardt, your host. And today we are going to begin to explore the dreams, dream time, the royal road to the inner world. Just so you know, we'll be posting, archival episodes on my website, LorraineNeithardt.com, under Venus Unplugged. We'll be beginning a blog. And so if the episodes are not on Blog Talk Radio, it is because they're on the archives of the LorraineNeithardt.com. Okay? So you're not going to miss anything. It's just going to go to another place. So what's this virtual heartbreak hotel? What this is about is beginning to be able to turn, because when we get heartbroken, disappointed, whatever level of heartbreak happens in our life, that's an opportunity for growth. I think that's why it gets broken, because we don't understand. So something or a person comes into our life, it doesn't match the fantasy of what we think it should be, and heartbreak occurs, and we don't know what to do, or we just think, oh, this always happens to me. It always happens because you don't know yourself. And when you begin to know yourself and you begin to understand why you repeat that chronic blunder or that particular person, it's because you don't know yourself and what it is that you really want and need. So heartbreak is the infinite, most profound teacher, because out of understanding comes kindness and wisdom, transformation, and paying up karma, which is a lot of what heartbreak is about. So, what I want to help is to explore and expand our understanding. We're given a set of rules and regulations which don't work, but we keep trying. So I am by birth a clairvoyant, medial woman, the one who stands between the worlds. I've been trained in all the esoteric languages, and since 1985, for 20 years, I was trained in the work of Carl Jung, and particularly in dreams. Dreams are like my favorite, most profound teachings ever. Because when we can approach the dream, which is what today is going to be about, how does one approach a dream? Because the dream world deep within it's the royal road to the inner world. And the dreams are the talk of God, the divine, because dreams are symbolic. They're not literal, they're symbolic, like poetry. We need to be able to know how to approach that, how to perceive it. It's a symbolic language. And dreams they're your dreams, they're your language, they're what your psyche says. So they're tailor-made. And what they show us, the dream always indicates what we don't know about ourselves. If you want to know your blind spot, start looking at your dreams. When we approach the dream, as we approach the luminous, as we approach the attitude that we have towards anything that's sacred, I think that's the first and foremost respect. That part of you that you've been searching and scratching and climbing mountains and trying to understand, text sacred task is really within yourself. That language. The dream maker within you is the divine. If we can start relating to that sacred text that is personally written on your heart and your psyche, you learn to individuate. Individuate, that means to become whole. We take all our fractured parts. What Jung felt the dream world, or proved what the dream world was about, was the reconciliation of opposites. It's where the healing takes place. We're in some opposition, and that causes all this stress. And the dream time, or the dream place, or the dreaming is the poetry of the soul, the language. How does this work? So, and it's profound information. So the first step, if you wish to take the hard task, is to create a dream journal. You can just you can get a book. You can put it on. You can put it in any way that you want. It's almost like creating you can take after the dream, after you write it down, you can find images in newspapers or on the web or whatever that just remind you of the feeling of the dream. Okay, and you can start putting those in the book. Okay, but the dream journal, the more beautiful you make it, the more dignity and the more respect you have towards this, and the more serious it is. This is like your personal red book. Jung, I guess it came out a couple of years ago. The red book was a secret text of Jung, and it was his paintings and his ramblings, and in some cases his rantings. Guy was quite there at the edge. And it's exquisite, but it's his greatest body of work when he really didn't understand the dragon he had a hold of, and he was tossing and turning in his own woundedness, and he wrote and drew in the Red Book for many years, and he did not want it to be published after his death. The family was afraid that the people would see these, if this book was printed, that he was nuts, but he wasn't nuts. He truly was a visionary, but he always wanted to be a man of science, and he was a man of science. So, but the mystical and science, they're soulmates. So the red book is kind of create your own little red book, or green book, or pink book, or whatever book you want it to be. Because in the dream time, there's nowhere you have to go. You're already there. And this symbolic language takes time. It takes time to understand it. It takes time to see what this is about. So let's say, for instance, you have a dream about sex. In the inner world, sexuality is never wrong or dirty or judged. It's always holy. Sex in dreams, no matter how rough or extreme or raw, is holy ground. So that's profound right then and there. Holy ground for one's instinctual sexual nature. That's one of the rules of the dream world. I don't know if the dream world actually has rules, because it's just infinite. It's just the story on how what's being revealed about you. It's your guru. It's your divinity. I look at it as I write down my dreams every morning. I've got thousands of dreams since 1985. I guess I have about at least 5,000 dreams. And so it's interesting. So when there's an astrological event, let's say that Anne mentions, from 1994, I can go look at that date and see what my dream was on that date. And very often there is something that relates. Now, of course, when we first start this, as when I started, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just doing my homework. I was doing my homework assignment. I felt on a deep level the humbling importance that something was going on in the middle of the night. I would wake up, I would remember or try to remember, and then I would write it down. Not judging, just writing it, just whatever. And then afterwards read it and be quite amazed that any of this made any sense. And of course, this is a practice. This is like your meditation practice or your dance or whatever it is that you have a discipline about. And if you don't have a discipline, this is meeting the disciple of. That's what discipline means. This is a wonderful discipline to have. That the beloved is whispering teachings, poetry, guidance. Most of all, showing you what's in the blind spot. Because dreams are God's nature, and it's a mysterious force. Dreams have a superior intelligence. They illuminate. They give us insights. It's a place where the ego cannot rule. And what dreams can do is they make the unconscious come alive. Dreams are a guide to follow us into our destiny, because they'll tell us gradually. It's inner events that are a reality. Every dream is a revelation. Every dream is a revelation. And when we are before a revelation, we have a very humble attitude, or hopefully we have a very humble attitude, and a disciplined one. If you have a revelation, you're going to write it down, or you're going to tell the world. But with dreams, be careful. I wouldn't be telling everybody because, there are people who just go like, oh, well, dreams, that's just what I ate last night. It's like, really? That's interesting. But for those who are serious about dreams, and also one of the things to get, okay, so we're going to start writing the dreams down, even if you don't understand them. When you wake up in the morning, before you jump out of bed, even if that means you have to get up, try not to get up with an alarm. I know that's almost impossible. But even if you just do it on the weekend or devote one day a week, say Sunday morning or something where you can wake up easier, just write down, if you don't remember the dream, just write down what you feel. It may be a color. You may see a number. You may feel a sweetness. You may feel a horror. Whatever that is, just so Psyche knows you're at the door. And eventually, her language will break through to you. Do not judge the dream. There's nothing stupid. It's like saying wisdom is stupid just because we can't understand it. And yet we'll go to sacred texts like alchemy, which we don't understand a thing, and we know it's so sacred because really what we're feeling is like, oh my God, am I dumb? I really don't know what any of this means, and we're in awe of how little we know, which is a start. Nothing wrong with that. So in the dream, we start that down. We write that down. We write down the feeling. You may get an insight. You may remember a tree or a person. Do not judge. You don't know. It's an adventure. It's a mystery. And the first thing that we need to learn is how to approach a mystery. How do we stand before this? Some dreams are prophetic. Some dreams are about an attitude that we need to change. Some dreams are a conflict from a past life. There's many, but it's very, very complex, the dream world, and it's in you. It's your revelations. So the dreams point to our blind spot. And the reason that we're given these dreams is because the unconscious can devour us. You know, the unconscious is huge. It's as big as the universe. It's not some little pocket in that can be controlled. It's a profound world. So dream time is also like being in the cosmos. It's the cosmos within, but it's also related to the cosmos without. So the approach to the sacred is what we're going to be looking at here. Now, I'm going to spend a couple of weeks on this. So if you don't understand any of this, or if it's like, what the hell is she going on about now? Okay, just let it flow. just like once upon a time. Let it just go over you, because psyche knows. Your psyche knows, your unconscious knows, and it wants you to understand. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to this. You would have never found this Venus Unplugged, let alone listen to it. And the more people that listen, the more powerful this becomes, and the more we unite, and we have our own little our teaching time, our dream time. So the dream structure, okay. So when we have a dream, for those of us that just remember the dream right away, as I said, this is not a contest. This is a way of meeting the most sacred part of you and beginning a relationship, the true relationship, a love affair, as it were, okay? And as it is, with the most holy part of you. All right. So a dream structure, it's like a drama. So the first sentence is, or the place, we write that down. And then as the dream goes along, it names the problem. And I'll go over that. I'll give you examples of dreams, so don't panic, people there. We are going to go through this lovingly and gently. And then the dreams also tells us our ups and downs. Then we do associations. And then usually the last part of the dream points to the resolution. That doesn't mean we're there yet. And very often dreams are a few months ahead of the conscious world. People will give me a dream, and I know in a couple of months, man, they're going to meet that. So you better know the name of that dragon, because it's waiting for you, and you'll be able to understand what psyche is pointing at. So the first sentence in the dream gives us the direction or the situation. For instance, you dream that you're in your childhood home. So then we have to ask, well, what was the childhood home? How old was I? What was that room? What did it mean to me? So we start getting a sense of what psyche is pointing to. It's something from the childhood. So it can represent you have a childlike attitude, or it's an attitude that you learned in childhood, but it may need to be looked at and changed. So the dream can be pointing at that. Or it can be pointing to a secret that you didn't know, or something that happened in childhood that had an effect on you that is now showing itself. You need that material. You need that psychic energy of what's caught in that childhood memory. For now, nothing is useless in the dream. Nothing. It's all meaningful. You can work on a dream for a year and keep on getting information from it. Very often I'll just have a spontaneous remembrance of a dream, although I have them all written down. And I write them out by hand because I want them to go through my nervous system, the old-fashioned way. And then I transcribe them into my computer. It's a lot of work, but it keeps you out of trouble, and it keeps you in relationship with the divine. And that's what we want, is to really understand who we are and what our nature is. So the first sentence is who I am, it's the place, and then you ask the question about, where's the place, what are the people? Is it the mother or the father? Is it a stranger? We'll go over the characters. It's like a play. And then the moment of the dream, it was midnight in the Bronx with a stranger. I mean, right then and there, wow, that's like so exciting. I want to read that, right? I want to be part of that. The dream time is very poetic. So it names the problem. And then the story is told. We begin to make associations. And very often, as I said, the last sentence is what psyche is driving at, the solutions, or the catastrophe. Dreams will not guide us into catastrophe. We do that all by ourselves. It can warn us. And people get very nervous if they dream of somebody who's passed over. If there's a death in the dream, very rarely it doesn't mean your own death. Although people who have a very specific kind of dreaming when they are getting ready to pass over, but that's rare, okay? And as I said, we have prophetic dreams. They tell us, they foretell. We have dreams. Actually, we can have archetypal dreams that are so sacred that it's inappropriate to interpret them. We just know that it's a direct commandment from the divine. And that's happening to you. That's not because I've spent, 33 years under the influence of the dream world. It's happening all the time. You just don't know it. So look at what you're missing. You don't need a guru if you're working on your dreams. I mean, you may need somebody to help you interpret your dreams, or somebody to listen, or even just tell the family pet. They're very wise. They listen. Just recite it. Hear it. Jung used to tell his farmer that lived next to him. I didn't know anything about dreams, but the man would listen, and Jung would get an insight about his dreams. Okay. So don't underestimate yourself. You can do this. It's happening anyway. It just is pointing at the symbols. Okay. Dreams reveal the unconscious. Dreams are what is pursuing you. Sometimes we can have dreams that somebody is pursuing us, some figure. Sometimes it's a monster or somebody we're afraid of. But then when we turn towards the thing that we're so afraid of, we realize it's really giving us a message that the ego doesn't want to hear, especially if we don't want to grow up. If we want to stay a puer or a puella, we don't want to hear it. The wisdom in the dream is very annoying. But if you're devoted to immaturity, I doubt you're even listening to this podcast. And what the symbols mean, okay? What does it mean to you? Like the self is unknown. The self with a capital S, that's the divine center of the psyche. And so the whole point is to become aware. Okay, now we're all for the ego. We're not against the ego. We just want the ego to be in alignment with the soul. Soul is psyche, all right? And when we build, we have to have a strong enough ego to contain psyche, just our soul, and eventually that the true self, with a capital S, S-E-L-F, can be contained. And that's when we start to what Jung calls individuation. We start becoming whole. There's no timeline on this. We've got infinity. So most people begin and stop and stop and begin. But the dreams, for those of you that are interested, are the sacred texts from within. And the story that's being told, and next week I'll have some dream examples so we can explore what it would look like, okay? The shadow in a dream always comes up as the same sex as the dreamer. Females will dream of other females. That can be a shadow aspect. And there could be a golden shadow. It doesn't necessarily make negative, and a male will come up as a male shadow. There can be somebody in the dream who's just doing something that you're appalled by. It's like, oh my God, that is so not me. Guess what? That's your shadow. It is you. And that's part, it helps us begin to accept what is unacceptable. But it's only unacceptable to the ego. It's not unacceptable to the soul. So when another person comes up in the dream and we look at it and we're very judgmental about it, or we're embarrassed, very often something you would be embarrassed about in the dream is really the most creative, profound, and it's the bright side of the shadow, and it gets us to understand what the shadow is about, because there's no flowers without shit. And The shadow is the dark, unknown side of us, but it's not necessarily negative. It's just not acceptable. It may not be acceptable because of the way we were raised or the religion we were raised in. It doesn't, but it can have great talent. But if we're told, don't dance when you're happy, a dancer can be very anxiety-ridden in a dream. Or it's telling you, you lost that connection with that dancer. Let's dance. So when we first look at the dream structure, these are the stages of the dream. First, we have the introduction. So the introduction is, okay, I was, at my family home, and my siblings were there, but I couldn't find them, but all their stuff was there. Then there is a rise in action. Let's say the rise in action is an anxiety that no one is home. Can't find my mother and father. Can't find my cat. Well, that would really get me anxious, okay? And then we come to in that rise in action, that climax. Let's use the example of because those actually always throw me into an anxiety when I can't find my cat. Okay, that's the climax. I'm anxious. It's midnight. I'm in the Bronx. I'm in my family home. I can't find my siblings. Where's my mother and father? But most of all, their things are there, so I know something's still there, but I can't find my cat. I freak. I start looking. And then it goes into a descent, looking all over. There's a panic. And then suddenly we go into this descent, and then comes the solution or the resolution. And I realize my cat is lost, is running on the street. So I run after the cat, and I find it. Now what that's about, this is a very simplex example, is the introduction, is the feeling in that particular made-up dream. I didn't actually have that dream. Is I have to return to a place of origin and all the associations of what that's about. Okay, who I was, what I was about. It's a state of childhood. It's a state of unconsciousness. It's a state of, never knowing if there was anything beyond the childhood world, all right? And then I see, okay, everybody's in place. I know them. I know I know my siblings and what they like and what they dislike. So it's kind of this family feeling. So it's something to do with the family structure. But then what is essentially mine, what I love beyond measure, my cat, her name is Faith, which is always interesting in a dream, that I lose faith. The cat in the dream world represents the feminine. So the state that our cat is in the dream world is the state of our feminine. Now, if the cat, a few weeks ago I had a dream with a bunch of cats, and they were having a grand time. They were reading books, and they were dancing, and they were playing. They were having terrific. So I knew that my feminine, there was a deep integration going on, and it was joyous. All right, but in this made-up dream, then just give you, I lose faith. I lose my cat. I can't find her. So naturally, I'm in a panic. So that would indicate within the last 24 hours, if you have a dream like that, I would then have to question myself, what have I done that I lost connection to my true feminine? What happened? Oh, I can't believe it. It's 90 seconds, just when we were getting into it. Oh, this is going to be fun. I love dreams. All right, so tune in next week. So if in this dream, made-up dream, I lose my cat, I have to find her. So when I wake up and I write a dream down like that, I know I've got to really examine, where did I lose my connection? Where wasn't I true to myself? Where did my feminine go? What happened to my faith? So tune in next week. And if you have any questions or anything, just email me at LlorraineNeithardt.com. That's NEITHARTT. And this is going to be so much fun. I love this. So your hard task is to start considering taking up the task of finding a sacred place for your dreams to dwell. and may your dreams come true. Next week. Bye.
They're gonna kill the love of my life. If I don't go back to what I was doing.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous.
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide. Now playing. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13. Collide. Now playing. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13. Collide. Now playing.